Challenges and changes. UK history from the 1970s to 2010. Problems in the economy in the 1970s. Highlight. The post-war economic boom ended in the late 1970s. Prices of goods and raw materials increased sharply. Exchange rates were unstable. Problems with the balance of payments, imports exceeded the income from exports. Strikes in various industries and services led to conflicts between trade unions and the government. Concerns arose about the excessive power of trade unions and their negative impact on the UK. Serious unrest and violence occurred in Northern Ireland, leading to the suspension of the Northern Ireland Parliament in 1972. The UK government directly ruled Northern Ireland, resulting in significant loss of life. Conflicts in Afghanistan and Iraq. Highlight. In the 1990s, Britain played a leading role in coalition forces, liberating Kuwait following the Iraqi invasion in 1990 and getting involved in the conflict in the former Republic of Yugoslavia. Since 2000, British armed forces have been engaged in the global fight against international terrorism and the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. British combat troops left Iraq in 2009. In Afghanistan, the UK operates as part of the United Nations, UN, mandated International Security Assistance Force, ISAF, coalition, helping to prevent Afghan territory from being used for international terrorism. ISAF is also assisting in building up the Afghan national security forces and creating a secure environment for governance and development. The plan was to hand over security responsibility to the Afghans by the end of 2014. Coalition government from 2010 onwards. Highlight. In the general election of May 2010, no political party won an overall majority. The Conservative and Liberal Democrat parties formed a coalition government. David Cameron, the leader of the Conservative Party, became the Prime Minister. Problems in the economy in the 1970s. In the late 1970s, the post-war economic boom came to an end. Prices of goods and raw materials began to rise sharply and the exchange rate between the pound and other currencies was unstable. This caused problems with the balance of payments. Imports of goods were valued at more than the price paid for exports. Many industries and services were affected by strikes, and this caused problems between the trade unions and the government. People began to argue that the unions were too powerful and that their activities were harming the UK. The 1970s were also a time of serious unrest in Northern Ireland. In 1972, the Northern Ireland Parliament was suspended and Northern Ireland was directly ruled by the UK government. Some 3,000 people lost their lives in the decades after 1969 in the violence in Northern Ireland. Conflicts in Afghanistan and Iraq. Throughout the 1990s, Britain played a leading role in coalition forces involved in the liberation of Kuwait, following the Iraqi invasion in 1990, and the conflict in the former Republic of Yugoslavia. Since 2000, British armed forces have been engaged in the global fight against international terrorism and against the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, including operations in Afghanistan and Iraq. British combat troops left Iraq in 2009. The UK now operates in Afghanistan as part of the United Nations, UN, mandated 50-nation International Security Assistance Force, ISAF, coalition and at the invitation of the Afghan government. ISAF is working to ensure that Afghan territory can never again be used as a safe haven for international terrorism, where groups such as Al-Qaeda could plan attacks on the international community. As part of this, ISAF is building up the Afghan national security forces and is helping to create a secure environment in which governance and development can be extended. International forces are gradually handing over responsibility for security to the Afghans, who will have full security responsibility in all provinces by the end of 2014. Coalition government from 2010 onwards. In May 2010, and for the first time in the UK since February 1974, no political party won an overall majority in the general election. The Conservative and Liberal Democrat parties formed a coalition, and the leader of the Conservative Party, David Cameron, became Prime Minister.